Good evening. Welcome to the new session, live session of Exports Nation live on VG Exports VG Exports Mastery YouTube channel. Uh, let's wait for a few minutes for more people to join. So, uh, in today's session, my idea is to talk about one important area that every person who is involved in international trade, he or she should be aware of. That is the basic idea and the concept of supply chain management. And when we say supply chain management, we are talking of the international supply chain management. We are talking of the international logistics management. So that is the idea. So in supply chain management, if we talk about, I will be taking up in this live session of today introductory session, introductory conceptual model which I'll be sharing, that what are the dimensions of supply chain management, what are the issues that are involved in supply chain management, and what are the future and the scope of supply chain management, and specifically focusing on the international supply chain management. So that's the idea. So for this, I will be sharing with you one PowerPoint presentation wherein I will be giving you the topics that I am going to cover. I mean, it is not a very long session. So in a short session, I will be mainly talking of the overview of the supply chain management. Maybe in the future sessions, subsequent session, we can go a little deeper into the dimensions and the issues that are involved in supply chain management. So let's start the session. I'm thankful for the audiences who have joined today, taken time to attend this live session. So let me share with you this presentation. So when we talk of the supply chain management, we are also talking of the international logistics as such. International logistics is part and parcel of the supply chain management when we look at the supply chain management from the international perspective. So in today's session, I'll be focusing on what are the areas that are covered in supply chain management and international logistics, and specifically talking about, sharing about the growth of international trade that has happened in recent times, and what are the objectives and importance of the supply chain management and international logistics in international trade. Because our aim and objective remain hovering around international trade and the insights of the supply chain management as well as the international logistics, and what are the objectives of the supply chain management in terms of the concept of green logistics or so-called value chain. So These are some of the very much talked about areas of the international concerns. Lot has been discussed on these points. So I'll be taking up what is happening around the world and what they're talking about in a very introductory manner. So it's an overview, just an overview. So let us first start with the scope of supply chain management and international logistics. The scope is ever expanding at a very fast pace. The overall scope of supply chain management is not just confined now to transportation, but it is much beyond that. So when we say international logistics and supply chain management, we are talking of the many activities, the myriad of the activities that are now involved with the supply chain management and international logistics. So what has happened that the areas that are majorly covered in supply chain management and international logistics in present times include things like forecasting customer demand, strengthening communication channels, maintaining distribution channels. Now, somebody will say that why to maintain the distribution channels? Why the supply chain management? That is the marketing job. So now we are not in a position to work in silos or in islands in companies. So supply chain management with the objective of reducing the overall cost, it has to maintain many activities, carry out many activities that may be touching with the different areas of the corporate sector or the international traders. So we'll talk more about it. So scope, as I told you, is ever expanding and now includes even maintaining the distribution channels, controlling the inventory requirements at different points, starting from the origin of the goods and moving into the intermediate requirements, transshipments, and the port of discharge, all kind of inventories, including the custom bonded warehouses internationally. So these areas are now covered, as well as handling the materials requirement. So the material in terms of including the back end of the manufacturing of the goods. So those backends are also part of the international supply chain management. As I had discussed in one of the sessions earlier, that the international trade at present is part of the global value chain. And when it is part of the global value chain, it refers to importation linked exports. So there is no exports in today's international trade without the need of the imports, generally speaking, especially the consumer goods, especially the items that are required for the best solution for the customers. So customer demands are increasing, customer needs are increasing, so that requires the global efforts. So that necessitate the handling of the materials requirement for the overall supply chain management, and as well as processing the orders. So all these things are now ever expanding and becoming part of the supply chain management, including the selection of the location for plants and warehouses. So even that has now become part of the international supply chain and logistics management. Then procuring the raw material, which is also part of the handling of the materials requirement. Materials can also be required for the packing and other needs. So managing packings and packaging requirements, regulating traffic and transportation, that is very traditional in nature, that function. Then creating time and place utilities. So the benefits of the time and the place utilities, that has to be used to reduce the overall cost of the supply chain management and add value for the businesses to make profits from the consumers. So the time and place utilities of the customers will help in securing the profits for the businesses. Movement consolidation. So not only the consolidation of the goods, but also the consolidation of the services that is becoming part of the supply chain management, international supply chain management, international logistics, and handling of the reverse logistics. That is becoming more and more important in today's world. Reverse logistics is the scope of reverse logistics itself is ever increasing in the light of the reverse requirement returns as well as the needs of the climate change. So more and more governments will be in very near future forcing the businesses to take responsibility of the disposal of the goods once they are used by the end consumer. So how it is to be done is little complicated, but this is the need of the hour to reverse the damage that is happening to the climate and maintenance of the customer service and supports also post sale services. So you can see from this slide that the scope of international supply chain management and international logistics is ever expanding. That is what is happening. Now, what are the real facts why we are facing this situation where the scope of supply chain management and international logistics is so much expanding? This kind of growth is not usual. If we look at the human history, if we look back into the historical aspects or the ancient trade, what kind of trade is happening today is kind of supernatural. If you look at it, it may look very usual, but it is not usual. It is the result of the recent spurt in the growth of the international trade. In last few decades, when the humans have seen the longest period of peacetime, that is very unique. That's an aberration actually. The longest period of peacetime is there uh, after Second World War. What is happening today in Russia Ukraine war, how much it expands, that has to be seen. But possibly the result may not be so bad as the world is thinking, in which case we'll be able to elongate this peace period, longest peace we are witnessing. That has given us this big spurt in the international trade, the growth of international trade, which is steep in nature, and world economy has grown in last several decades, and barring uh, few small periods of low growth, generally the world economy is increasing. So we are looking at a growing world and the growing improvement in the standard of living of the people of the world. So whichever continent you talk about, the growth is happening. An even steeper rise of international trade, that is what we are witnessing, resulted from the technological developments, the kind of technological developments that we have seen in recent times are commendable but debatable. So technological developments that are happening, they have really benefited international trade, and also it is the result of the concerted and global united efforts to reduce trade barriers. And in this, multilateral organizations like World Trade Organizations efforts and initiatives are to be commended. It has really helped in the reduction of the trade barriers in the member countries and the expansion of the international trade that is even steeper than the growth of the world economy. So that is what we are seeing. And the countries have got benefits from such opening up, such trade liberation, privatization, and globalization. So LPG has helped many countries, and India, for example, is a major beneficiary of this trade liberalization. So many developing countries are witnessing the benefits of this opening up of the world. India has benefited. If you take the example of Bangladesh, Bangladesh is doing very good among the countries that were not economically so sound. Other countries are also trying. Nepal will be benefiting. Many countries in African continents are opening up and adopting the modern methods of international trade and are likely to benefit in very near future. So this is the scenario of the growth of the international trade. So this international trade growth has really helped in increasing the scope. My purpose of this slide was to drive upon the fact that why the scope of supply chain management is increasing or international logistics is increasing because of the growth of international trade. What is happening is that the business is becoming more complex, more competitive, and we have a situation when in the international market we have almost like hyper competition. So in such a scenario, the volume are big, business is big, but the margins may be low. So in that scenario, how do you reduce cost of trade transactions, transaction costs so called, and reduce the time of movement of the goods, reduce the reduce the overall cost, and add the time and place value for meeting the needs and demands, changing needs and demands of the international customers. So that is what we are seeing today. And in fact, if we look around in our day-to-day activities, we see major changes in the type of products which we use and the origins of those products. So when you go to the market, you see you have goods of all sorts coming from Vietnam, coming from Sri Lanka, coming from China, Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia, and even from Western countries. So that is what is happening. Now, if we talk about what are the objectives and importance of the international supply chain management and international logistics, the core objective, if we talk in a contemporary thinking, if we talk about, the idea is to maintain the ensured and smooth flow of goods and services from the origin, that is the seller, to the buyer with the following: that is the right product, right quantities and assortments, right places, right time, right cost and price, right condition. And if we talk in terms of the modern thinking, so that is the contemporary thinking. If we add to the modern thinking, we are also talking of the movement of the goods, flow of the goods from the seller to the buyer in a sustainable manner also, without really damaging the planet, without really damaging the environment. So these are the modern objectives that are becoming very much real and important. If we talk of the importance, increase of the importance of the international supply chain management and international logistics, the importance originate from the few facts, like for example, increasing of the transportation cost, achieving product efficiency, the need of achieving the product efficiency at higher levels. So we are constantly graduating from one level to the next level. We are graduating from the lower levels to higher levels in terms of product efficiency, in terms of the overall supply of the goods, right goods, right price. They are able to meet the demands of the customers. It They are able to solve the customer issues, customer problems internationally. So why internationally? Because one country cannot be the origin of all solutions of the customer problems. It is next to impossible. In some of the countries like India, that is quite big, or China, that is quite big. There is a possibility of some level of the in-country production. To some extent, it is possible, but it is not really possible in today's world to meet the demands of the customers. So, one example you already know that what has happened in Russia Ukraine war, there are a lot of sanctions for the goods going to Russia. Now, initially, Russia thought that it will be able to get all the items from some of the countries, and the needs of the customer in Russia will be fulfilled. But it is not happening, and now they are really looking at very difficult time due to the elongated war time and the continued sanctions on goods flowing into Russia. So it is causing a lot of hardship for the customers in Russia, and product efficiency is not there of the goods produced in Russia. They cannot really meet all the demands, all the needs of the customers, and the overall changing perspective of the so-called inventory management. So what we talk about just in time or many other things, if we talk of the inventory management, and what kind of inventory we are talking about, of which place, which time. So that perspective is becoming very broader, international in nature. So that change in the perspective is making the the work of supply chain management much wider, and the importance is increasing. Proliferating the product lines. So proliferating the product lines means that the range of products that are required to be produced and supplied internationally. So the importance of supply chain management comes here in making it possible. Such a wide range of products. For example, if we talk of the product lines in the area of mobile technology, mobile devices, or the laptop computers or electronic sector, if you look at, so the variety and the needs of different products, different packing, different methods of handling, and different varieties of the goods that are transported from one country to another country, those product lines, proliferation of that is really a complicated matter. If we talk of the challenges that are faced by today's international supply chain management professionals, and increasing use of the ICT, information and communication technology, wherein the need of the ICT deployment is very much important, very much desirable, and it has helped actually. Uh, Now, the role of ICT and the other technological advancement, for example, in the transportation, for example, the availability of very large rolling stock for the sea shipments, all these things have contributed immensely in the growth of international trade. So, this increase of the use of ICT requires a different perspective and different approach in the international supply chain management. So, which increases the importance of this area. Then, increasing variations and expanding wants of the international customer. It wants more and more variety. It wants goods that are better than the past Every time they want better goods and more affordable. So the variations are too high. Customers, that also includes the changing variations due to the fashion changes. So customer needs and demand are changing very fast, not only in the traditional goods of fashions like ready-made garments, but many other areas. Customer is looking for variation, for example, in the shape and types of the mobile devices, even laptop computers, or the even the sports shoes. So many goods, they need constant alignment with the needs and demands of the customer, changing needs and demands of the customer, and also the relaxation of the rules and regulations for international trade by most of the countries which are part of the uh, uh, those that are members of the World Trade Organization, and need for strengthening the distribution networks. So, at the international level, strengthening the distribution networks has become the key for the success, overall success. So, all these factors have contributed for the increasing demand or increasing importance of the international supply chain management and international logistics. So this is what we are seeing. If we have little more insights on international supply chain management and international logistics, in my one of my earlier session, I had shared with you that India is spending more than its export value on logistics, overall logistics. So I had shared with you that the cost of logistics in India is almost 14.4% of the overall GDP of India. So there is a need to reduce this cost. World average is something like 8%, and many countries are spending even less on logistics uh, as the percentage of the GDP. So there is definitely a major crisis for India, in fact, I would say, to work on reducing the cost of the logistics in India. So, if we talk of the world, how does the world reduce the logistics cost? One of the ways to have a total logistics cost perspective, not to reduce the cost at every leg of it. So, somewhere you have the minimum, somewhere you have the optimum cost, but overall logistics cost should be reduced. So, that perspective has helped. So, that requires different types of trade offs. I will just share this trade off thing in the next slide. So, that is required. And the role of digitalization. So, due to the digitalization and the use of ICT, information and communication technology, what has happened, that world is able to reduce the logistics cost. So for example, new technologies like IoT, Internet of Things, smart logistics, smart sensors, and even I would say smart contracts that are blockchain based, so these are being used to reduce the logistics cost, overall logistics cost in the world today. So to illustrate this point of the overall cost perspective and reduction of the overall cost, uh, including the transport cost and the inventory cost, and having the trade-offs. What is the meaning of that trade-off? So, if we compare the logistics cost, and if we try to reduce, for example, the the inventory cost, uh, we can have some minimum point here, or the order processing cost, we have some minimum here, by expanding different activities, there are by having different ways of reducing it or increasing it. So you can see here, so we are not looking at the minimum cost. What we are looking at, the trade-off between the transport cost and the inventory cost, to find the least transaction cost configuration. So this point becomes the least overall cost. That is the meaning of. So this spectrum of logistic system alternatives which I'm talking about varies from few warehouses, premium transport, high speed order processing, to many warehouses, low cost transport, and mail speed order processing. So logistics cost in this spectrum would be different if we have these approaches of the nature of the warehouses, the nature of the transport, and the speed of order processing. So, what kind of trade-off is required to explore and discover the least transaction cost point? That's the objective of it. So, what is the meaning of this? The meaning of this is having the system perspective that include the complete marketing, sales, and distribution cost management. And in today's world, we are trying to make it possible to make use of the latest technological revolutions like metaverse. So, in one of my earlier session, I had discussed about it. So, role of metaverse based technology trading still to become the commercial reality for the physical goods. For the virtual goods, it is already happening. So it's a work in progress. So that are the some of the insights that I wanted to share about the supply chain management and international logistics. Then finally, I want to share with you the concept of sustainable activities that are to be carried out in the near future or even current international supply chain management and international logistics in terms of green SCM and value chain. So, all attempts are required to measure and minimize the ecological impact of different activities that are done in the logistics to make it green logistics. That becomes the center point for the local economies, local societies, and global environment. So that requires united efforts of the international community and the different governments and the efforts of various multilateral organizations. So that is what is the meaning of this green logistics and value chain that requires transition from the contemporary thinking to the modern thinking. And what is the contemporary thinking? Contemporary thinking involves logistics systems and approaches that use advanced technology and equipments to minimize environmental damage during the logistics operations, to the overhaul of the whole system in terms of modern thinking that includes redefining the concept of doing global business to reduce overall carbon footprint due to international trade activities, not just international logistics or international supply chain. All activities that are included in the international trade, for example, by using the digitization of all paperwork, that will definitely reduce the carbon footprint. So, this transition from the contemporary thinking to modern thinking is very simplistic way I have explained, but that includes many dimensions that are there in this. So, in today's session, my idea was to drive upon the phenomena that we are seeing internationally. That includes the high growth of the trade, bigger sea and air traffic that we are able to see, and due to the steep rise of international trade and the growth of international trade, and importance of the cost of logistics. So, the pursuit to bring down the overall transaction cost. That is the idea of international supply chain management and international logistics. The international logistics is therefore becoming more complicated and automated when we are using the international tools that are available, technological tools, information and communication technology, and the modern rolling stocks on the sea as well as in the air. So, finally, the takeaway of this today's session was that climate concerns are real now. So, that was the idea of today's session. So, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take up those questions and will be able to address your queries. So, thanks for joining today's session. I will now close the session. Thank you. Goodbye. Good night. We'll meet next Monday. Thank you.